If your heart can still be surprised by kindness in a cruel world, then pause right here, because what you're about to hear began with a single half-eaten sandwich and ended in a truth that stopped an entire military base in its tracks. And before we go any further, if stories that restore your faith in humanity still matter to you, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because what happens next deserves to be remembered and shared. No one ever noticed the janitor who cleaned the east wing of the city hospital before dawn. He moved quietly, pushed his cart carefully, and spoke to no one unless spoken to first. His name was Daniel Carter, and at 41, his life had already taken everything from him twice. Once when he lost his wife to cancer, and once when he lost his job at the factory that had promised him security. Now he worked 2 shifts as a janitor, slept 4 hours a night, and raised his 8-year-old son, Noah, on a salary that barely stretched from one sunrise to the next. Every morning, Daniel packed 1 lunch, 1 sandwich, 1 fragile apple, 1 bottle of water, half of it for his first break, half saved for Noah after school, and every morning he told himself it was enough. That morning was colder than usual. The city felt gray, heavy with fog and exhaust. Daniel had just finished mopping the hallway when he noticed the woman sitting near the vending machines. She wasn't begging, she wasn't asleep, she just sat there, folded in on herself, boots muddy, uniform wrinkled, hands shaking as if holding back something heavier than cold. His first thought wasn't soldier. It was lost, hungry, broken in a quiet way. He walked past once, then twice. On the 3rd time, he slowed. "You okay, miss?" he asked softly. She looked up slowly, eyes red-rimmed with exhaustion and pride fighting behind them. "Yes, sir, I'm fine," she said too quickly. Daniel knew that tone. He heard it in his own voice every time someone asked how he was doing. He reached into his lunch bag without thinking, took out his sandwich, wrapped in thin paper. He hesitated for half a second, just a flicker of guilt for Noah, but his hand moved anyway. "Here," he said gently. "Breakfast." Her eyes dropped to the sandwich as if it were gold. "I can't take that," she said, shaking her head. "That's yours." He smiled, small and tired. "I already ate." It was a lie, a simple one, a necessary one. She took it with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered before taking the first bite like someone who hadn't eaten in days. He didn't ask her name. She didn't ask his. They shared silence like a promise neither of them knew they were making. Daniel walked away with only the apple in his pocket and the quiet ache of a father who hoped his son wouldn't be too hungry that evening. By afternoon, the base across town had locked down. Word spread through whispers first. Then sirens. Then uniforms. Black SUVs rolled through the hospital entrance. Soldiers posted at every door. Doctors frozen in place. Nurses pulled aside. And then they came for the woman by the vending machines. The same woman who had cried quietly into a paper napkin that morning. Her name was Lieutenant Commander Evelyn Pierce. And her father was Admiral Jonathan Pierce, the most feared and respected officer in the region. She had gone AWOL the night before, not in defiance, but in despair. Her platoon had been ambushed overseas. 3 soldiers under her command had died. 1 in her arms. The guilt crushed her lungs. She couldn't face the debrief. Couldn't face her father. Couldn't face a mirror. So she ran, still in uniform, and slept on a bus bench until her body gave out and security brought her to the hospital. When the Admiral arrived, the entire building seemed to shrink under his presence. He was a towering man with silver hair and eyes trained by war. He demanded answers, demanded names, demanded to know who had last been in contact with his daughter before she collapsed. Security footage was pulled. The janitor appeared on the screen, handing over a sandwich. 3 hours later, Daniel was escorted from the janitor's closet he used as a break room by 2 silent soldiers. He thought he was being fired, arrested, possibly worse. He didn't know that his small lie that morning was about to change everything. Admiral Pierce entered the room without rank, without salutes, without ego. Just a father standing in front of a man who had fed his broken child. "You gave my daughter your food," the Admiral said. Daniel swallowed. "She looked hungry, sir." "You didn't know who she was." "No, sir." "Why?" Daniel hesitated. Then quietly, "Because sometimes all the uniform tells you is where someone works, not how tired they are inside." The Admiral stared at him for a long time. Then his voice cracked. "Just once. She says that sandwich stopped her from doing something she couldn't take back." Silence fell heavy between them. Daniel thought of Noah, of the apple in his pocket. of the woman's shaking hands. "I'm just a dad," he said. "I didn't save anyone, but he had." That night, Admiral Pierce went home and made a call that would echo through every part of Daniel's life. 2 days later, Daniel was called into the hospital boardroom. He arrived in his janitor uniform, terrified. Noah waited at home with a neighbor, unaware that their lives were about to turn. Admiral Pierce stood at the head of a long table. Then he saluted. "To the man who reminded my daughter why she wore the uniform in the first place." Daniel received a full-time maintenance supervisor position that very day. Triple the pay, full benefits. His son received a scholarship to a private school funded by the Military Foundation. And on weekends, Evelyn came by their small apartment, not in uniform, but with groceries and quiet laughter and a healing that needed no rank. Years later, when Noah graduated high school, Admiral Pierce sat beside Daniel in the front row. No cameras, no speeches, just two men who had learned that the smallest kindness can outlive the loudest power. And if you take one thing from this story, let it be this: you never know who is watching your quiet goodness, and you never know whose entire life might hinge on the simplest thing you almost didn't give. So if this story touched even one corner of your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes kindness matters, because sometimes a single sandwich can change the course of destiny.